Hello, reality sandwich community. Kyle here, your favorite conscious agent, back with another insightful share your experience interview. I'm joined by Brett today. So, Brett, thank you for taking time to have a conversation with me.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Obviously, our audience isn't familiar with you, so if you like, could you give a brief introduction to yourself, your business title, and what kind of cool project you're working on for the community?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just start with my title. I go with is well-being entrepreneur because it's the easiest way for me to describe broadly what I do. I spent 13 years deeper in corporate world, a lot of it in Big Four consulting, a lot of digital transformation, and 2 years ago, through a mix of things in personal life and calling and just like a feeling that things needed to shift, I went in a very different direction and went deeper on yoga, went deep on meditation, got into breath work, and through a number of things, ended up really just going in on this intersection between like modern Western life, especially in the business community, and the basics of happiness, of experiencing wellness on a day to day basis. So for me, that looks like leading retreats. It looks like working with individuals. Recently, it looks like opening a new holistic ketamine therapy practice in New York with a couple partners. And so it's taken a lot of different forms, but my life now really is focused on how can I make people's experiences be better and do it through pulling off of like my past experience.
Beautifully put. With your yoga and meditation experience, was that something that your parents introduced you to, or how did you kind of get into that momentum and even getting yourself certified to teach yoga and influencing that into your daily wellness programming?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up my parents 'cause I grew up in a quite a conservative, traditional Christian evangelical home. My parents were missionaries, and so there was a big spiritual element in my life growing up, but not certainly one that focused on yoga and meditation and that kind of thing. Um, I think I was about 25, so like 11 years ago, and I was at Deloitte Consulting at the time. I was experiencing work hours like I hadn't before. I was really like hitting like my first real phase of like true burnout and stress and anxiety and such. And I started like grasping for things that could help. And yoga was something I found. I lived across the studio, or I lived across the street from a yoga studio. First time I went, I like couldn't touch my toes. I didn't even really understand what it was about. But then I started learning in the classes like, oh, there's like a breathing side to this, and it like really kind of got me like rooted into some like past interests in like world religions, and like I started like going down like Buddhist and Hindu portals, if you will, and just like really learned there's this like whole other way of living that it seemed like most of the Western world was ignoring. And I found pieces of it that were really helpful for stress and anxiety and that kind of thing.
Beautifully put. What and again, how did you want to, now experiencing yoga, decide that you wanted to really master this and teach others?
Yeah, so yoga brought me a lot of physical improvement. Literally felt better in my body, a lot more flexibility. I could dance better once I started doing it. But it was an inroad for internal work. It got me like curious about meditation and trying to meditate and realizing how difficult it was. And sort of it got me reading and peeling back the layers on like why there is value in mindfulness practices. Um, so for me, it was like yoga became an inroad to really to deeper spiritual work. There's like the physical yoga that has a lot of value that I think most people in the US are familiar with. But for me, like when I was drawn to go to yoga teacher training, it was because I wanted to understand the Yoga Sutras and the Vedas that went back 3, 4, 5,000 years, and like what were people doing, well beyond before modern society existed to tap into consciousness. And it was really like that fascination more than the typical like physical side of it that drew me in.
Well put. Now, how did you, again, from that experience now start to explore things outside of your consulting world and kind of dip your toe into more wellness oriented businesses or, how did you kind of dip your foot into that side of the industry?
Yeah, it very much evolved. This was not a grand strategy on my part for sure. Um, as I was in the midst of doing a lot of my own self work and training, I had individuals in my network that were sort of following the journey with me, and some of these were people that had like worked with me in the past when I'd been in a corporate capacity. And several of these folks turned into my first clients, either individuals that were dealing with their own stress, anxiety, purpose, trying to figure out what to do next, or folks that led a department, had some budget, could bring me in to support a town hall or to work with their leaders. So it very much like it was this kind of aha that occurred where I was like, wait, the world that I kind of came from, if you will, where most of my skill sets lie, putting together programs, implementing big business changes, that kind of thing. I was like, this world so needs like the goodness that I just went and pursued because I needed it when I was there. Uh, how can more of this kind of come back into that world? And I'll say on the front end, it isn't just because it's like, oh, it's like great to help corporate people or because there's budget there. But I truly believe, like, if we look at society today, the way that things get done and shift, it's business and government, and they, in a lot of not good ways, are like put together. And a lot of the worst things that are happening to our world today are through those forces. And so, anything that I can do to play my small part to move the needle, to have corporations acting in a more conscious way, how they live day to day, but then also things like the environment, things like how we treat our people. I've really come to see like shifting the business world, is probably one of the core paths to making positive change elsewhere. It's like the other routes burn it down. It's kind of like we either work with what we got or it gets replaced, and there's probably a place for both.
Well put. I'm curious, what you experience when working with corporate clients. How do we merge that quote integration? You come in, you kind of walk them through this process, but how do they continue to implement after you leave for the day?
Yeah. So one of the really interesting things with corporate world is the things that I'm talking about with you now, and that I can go and sit down with any Fortune 500 company and chat about, were like really woo woo 10 years ago. People understand now that how we feel on a day to day basis, our stress level, the extent to which we're like constricted and tightened up, or like chill and moving in flow, that literally turns into our physical health, that turns into like hypertension or the ability to make good sound decisions along the way. And there's research, there's data. So like a lot of things that were like, oh, weird, holistic, like woo woo, now you can really talk and engage around. And the nervous system is such a great way to do it. Like I talk a lot about, it's like, basically like each of us, like we have our consciousness, we have our experience of this world, and then our body, which we experience through our nervous system, it's like a vehicle, and like we get to drive it. And if we learn the secret language of the body and understand, when the gas is low, when the oil needs change, it tells us what to do. It also tells us when it's freaking out, and a lot of us spend a lot of time ignoring that, and then it gets into disrepair. So long-winded way of saying these don't seem to be hard conversations to have now, whereas I feel like they maybe used to be. Um, what is really, really tough is as individuals change, if the organization they're in doesn't create space for it, they either leave the organization or like they create a limited change in their area and then get frustrated and like they revert or like, so it's a frankly challenging thing I felt is like, or I found is if you're not affecting change at like a senior leader level who's then going to cascade the change down and create space for it and stuff, you're really just convincing people to leave the organization or helping them like see that they're not happy. So that, to be honest, that's something I'm like figuring out with my own services and what I do. I look at some of the like retreats and environments and I'm like, I really help these people and now they all want to lose their job. And it's like that, that can't always happen.
So there's meditation, there's yoga, and obviously through those holistic networks, the ideas of plant medicine start to work their way in. What was your first experience? Somebody brought up either a retreat or some of these early plant medicines, and what was your first initial reactions to that, and how did you slowly, open yourself up to some of this stuff?
Yeah. It's definitely been an evolution and a lot of it pairs with just me as an adult in the United States who had that background I described, where I grew up in this, conservative small town environment, there was a lot of barriers that I had to mentally get over uh, in every aspect of life, because it's like I feel like I grew up with like so much conditioning, where I thought there were so many things were bad, so many things were wrong, so many things we shouldn't do. And I think the journey of being an adult is like slowly taking control of your own life and rethinking each of those things. Um, yeah, I think a mixture of like the religious background and then like interest in altered states, and I was very like drawn towards this world before I really had a good concept of ceremony and of working with these as medicines. I had a mushroom experience, like a decade plus ago, that I didn't have language like ego, death, and I didn't really know like the oneness that like is now like written about in academic circles. But I got that experience really, quite early, and was changed by it. And when a couple of years ago, when I really started when I went from like I'm a practice of yoga to like I'm gonna go deep on this, I'm gonna get certified, the breath work, all of that. It was really important to me that I figured out how to access and shift and work with consciousness without using medicines. And the teacher that I was working with at the time like thought this was a good path as well. So I spent a lot of time on activating breath work, holotropic, that type of thing, learning how to have experiences where I did get outside of my body or where I experienced other states through a purely non-medicine route. Because there was always the interest there. There was always a belief that, like, when I looked at it, I'm like, humans have been doing this as far back as humans go. We got around the fire. It's like any little spiritual route I would take, I'd be like, I would just like see that like there was a version of earlier humans that were finding other ways to connect in that I was really drawn towards. So, long-winded way of saying I knew that this was going to become part of my journey after I went through this year or two of like really focused sober work. And the first opportunity that I had to like really go intentionally sit with plant medicine, post my yoga training where we worked with cacao a lot, was it'd be in March of 2024. Went to Ecuador to a place some friends had connected me with, and sat with the Quichua people. It was just kind of like in so many ways, it's like what what I would have like read about in like a book of what these things are like. It was like truly, it was like deep in the jungle, no town nearby, huts around a river. So many different things happened that week, but it for me it was very much like I left that the jungle, if you will, and it was like a pivot point. It was kind of like, okay, like we're into a different part of this journey now. And this was a long-winded answer, but it's only accelerated since.
Well, but I'd love for you to dive into that first mushroom experience and what that was like for you, the set and setting. Walk me through that.
Yeah, sure. It makes sense we're talking about this. This isn't what I planned for, but yeah, I'll walk you through all of it. So I was in Delaware at a music festival, camping with a group of friends I think I was probably 24, something like that. But friends from college, friends from life, post it, just mix of people. But yes, someone had acquired them before the trip. I'd probably driven down from New York. It seemed like a really good idea. I was like excited and nervous and like all of the things because I hadn't had that experience before. But yeah, it's kind of funny because I was with a friend and then I had a friend like overseeing us, and like I had the best experience of my life. My buddy had like the worst experience of their life, and then I just had like a friend observing. But yeah, for me, I sat on top of this hill and it was feelings first. I just like things shifted towards connection, and I was like just like everything was beauty and love, and like the love that I had for my friends around me, any people that were coming by, my interest in them. It was just this like very connective thing. But then I remember just being on top of this hill and then just watching the world change around me, and watching like the treetops shift into different forms and the sky go to different colors, and and then these just like wild knowings of like, oh my god, like this is all, like people have been having these ahas for like forever, and then like just so much gratitude. Yeah, I haven't thought on this moment in quite a long time, but the whole way through, like my buddy was like truly going through it. He did not have a good experience, and there was a lot of comforting him during it. He went to a really dark place, but somehow at the end of all that, I thought there was value in the experience.
Absolutely. What I'm hearing a lot of from you is getting back to this primordial human connection or looking for altered states of consciousness. I'd love your philosophy on that. What you've kind of, what revelations you've come to. It sounds like we're all trying to tap into this original, community activation.
Yeah, I mean, God, we have so many layers that we live with, but like at our core, it's like we're people that like jumping around and screaming and celebrating and hitting the dirt and like all of the waves of emotion that like we experience on a day to day basis. Like that's there because human, in past like experienced those things, and like it's like we used them to climb the tree, and we used it to like connect in with this group, and we used it to flee, and our lives are different now. We don't need these like huge charges in the same way, but we have all these emotions in us, and you think you're someone that interests in energy and all that. It's like if we don't express these things, like it's literally like just unexpressed energy inside of us. It sits there. It creates blockages. We all know what uptight people are like. People that are afraid to move, and like yeah, this is just like a tapping back into like the core us before like all the BS that we've piled on top of life today.
What was your integration process like post that trip to the jungle, and how did you take that and pivot, again, kind of did you ramp up your business and wanting to connect with more people in the yoga and meditation, or where did that spiral into?
Yeah. So a lot of things happened in Ecuador, but it's like my life just got depressurized. It's kind of like it's like someone kind of like you know it's like it was a tire that was gonna burst. You just kind of like pulled the pressure out a bit and was like there's a whole lot in there that didn't need to be there. So for me, like a lot of the journey was realizing how much of my life, actions, motivations, like you name it, didn't originate anywhere within myself, my value, my feelings. It was based off of people's perceptions, things I'd always been told, things that would make someone else happy. I very much was able to like see my journey of life and see like all of the pieces of it that were being like dragged out into things that actually didn't have anything to do with me. And a lot of that was like me being worried about what people thought and like judging myself because of judgment that I thought other people had, or like basing my actions on what I thought would impress others. And I like it was truly miserable to experience that darkness like face to face, and the purging of that out of me. It wasn't a like for that day or that minute or that week. I Each night I came back lighter the next day, and when I left and came back to the U.S., I was like, oh wait, like it's still there, it's still different. Uh, and like we cycle in life, right? And so like all of things that like will pop up that were like an activation from something where like the pressure was kind of let down, and I'll just notice, I'll be like, oh yeah, it's still there, but like it just doesn't seem to like activate in the same way. um and for me it was like I just turned that into like a lot more confidence in what I was doing, a lot more willingness to go take on some new business endeavors, to make decisions on the next step of this, post corporate on my own life. It also it quickly turned into bringing plant medicine to others, which I knew was going to happen, but I also resisted because I'm like, God, here I am going to be the next cliche of some like white dude from the States that like, goes and has his experience. And then like I'm already like, experiencing that with like each piece of this journey. But like I came back and I found like people wanted to talk about it, and people were curious, and like folks had like the things where they're stuck or they're hurting. And like it's like within 6 months of me being back, I was planning a retreat to take a group of people. And yeah, my couple hours before this, we're on the phone with shamans working on a retreat for next year. But yeah, it's kind of wild how this one has quickly flowed.
How do you manage the respect of, again, kind of respecting the indigenous community to now organizing retreats yourself? How did you make sure to plan that properly, and what did you kind of bring to the table organizational wise, and what did you learn from your experience that you now wanted to facilitate with others?
Yeah, it's a like constant and evolving process because every time I have a conversation with someone, especially if they're newer to this work, like there's an obligation from to show respect, to educate, to like frankly just have a whole lot of humility of um, while I have a lot of like calling and interest and whatever towards this space, there's a background and experience that I don't have that others do and that I respect a lot. And it's a lot of reading. There's some like really incredible books from people who have spent their decades in this space. It's meeting people, learning from them. One of the guys I'm partnering with on a project right now has like he's been had like 25 years working with the ayahuasca that he works with, and like it's someone that like I can really trust partnering with. Um, I think also like there's a true financial dollars and cents component. So like if I'm going somewhere and taking a group, making sure that like who I'm working with there and like where we're investing our funds getting back to indigenous communities and where is the energy being shared and the finances and all of that. I think it's just being like really thoughtful because I think so many people probably or not I think there's a lot of people trying really hard in the space to do the right thing, especially folks that look like me. But we know the history of Earth and of colonization, and like over and over and over again, what's happened when people in power or whatever, come and find a group that have something they want access to. So I feel like I look like the bad guy in this space, and I'm like trying to like be like humble and thoughtful and methodical about approaching this the right way as I gain my own knowledge.
Beautifully put. Now, again, post that retreat, how did you now evolve that with the practices you were already doing into this new business venture that you're launching?
Yeah. Um, Everything flows together. I mean, in one piece, the new business venture where we're bringing ketamine therapy to the community in New York in a holistic approach. In a lot of ways, so myself and one of our other business partners, Shayla, like both have background in medicine circles, and our other partner, Dr. Gatmeyer, just has a lot of respect for this space and for all the research on holistic things, etc. But um, while this is a medical clinical practice, like Shayla and I are like thinking about, and Dr. Gatmeyer, but like the set and setting down to like how people being set up in a circular way, what's the lighting like, do we expectations ahead of time that you're going to get a hug unless you like want to be someone that's not so like frankly like as much as possible bringing the like natural healing elements of just community and all of that into what we do. Another element, this is really ties back into the modalities: meditation, breath work, intention setting. We've just like built that in as table stakes for working with ketamine in our practice. So we're teaching people it can be as little as 5 minutes a day, but if you're going to be going on this journey with us, you're going to be taking a little bit of time to sit with yourself, to be observant, to write down how you're feeling, to come up with intention, and then go talk to a therapist about it. So we're really just being like, there's so many places where you can go and be served medicine today of various sorts that like might or might not be held with intention and love and all those things. And we're just like really overemphasizing on the holistic intentional side of it, which gives a higher chance and likelihood for the the biggest improvements possible for patient.
Yeah, one of the most important things I came to during my San Pedro ceremony is these medicines are great, but you got to do the work, before and after. These are just tools, and you got to do the homework, after receiving your medicine.
Yeah, and I think it's so fascinating with the plant medicines. Like, we don't get to choose really what we're going to work on going into it, or like how it's going to go, or any of it. It's like, you have your intention, you have your guide, your idea, but it's like, you're kind of giving up control a bit, and you have to be willing, like, whatever shows up, like, that's what's going to be my journey for this. And that's the same kind of thing we're trying to pull into this. We're spending a lot of time on return to your breath, return to this moment, trust your journey, and like those are the kind of things we're telling patients, which is that's the same stuff you'd hear in a medical medicine circle, because we don't know. And last year, you brought up San Pedro, and on a retreat I had like two different settings and in different ceremonies, and like one of them was just like the most like connective, outdoor, like joyful, like I don't think I've ever felt more in the moment, and was able to be like really supportive of those around me and stuff. And like a few nights later, in like a nighttime ceremony that had a very different feel to it, like I like just went through it for like 10 hours with like a trust the process like lesson, and like didn't realize how much just trusting the process there was going to be this year, and having to just like keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep having faith even when it seems like something. And I was kind of like, I got this like joyful lesson from San Pedro, and like 2 days later I'm just like gearing up to go get the same one, and I just got this like huge like go through the pain to get to the joy on the other side thing. But it turned out it was like practice for what's been the last many months, so we learned.
Excellent. What made you specifically want to put your mind, resources, and energy behind a ketamine clinic versus you've worked with other medicines in the jungle? A lot of people open an eco retreat in Costa Rica. What made you, feel passion and working with ketamine in this setting was the right business move?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very not dogmatic person. I don't. There are very few things that there's one way to solve, and like even if there's a best way, it's probably not the best for like someone else. So I think complete sobriety is like a path for certain individuals. I think others have like various medicine paths that make sense for them. Um, I'm also someone that like really believes that like life forms in a way that like makes sense for each of our own journeys. And so I didn't set out for sure to start this business. I've shared about the journey that I'd been on for some years. A piece that I left out of it is my life partner. Gosh, I lose track, but several years ago, and I don't think I'm oversharing here. We'll see if I am. But in the midst of dealing with his own mental health challenges, went through ketamine therapy and got a lot of benefit of it. He's also someone in the medical profession and explored opening clinics after that. Ended up deciding not to, but I kind of watched someone go down the path of get a lot of benefit, go down the path of exploring, moving into this, and I was like sitting in the room listening to phone calls happening. And so I kind of like by osmosis learned a bit. And then fast forward 2 years, this is last fall, and Dr. Gatmeyer, who I've known for over a decade, had been seeing my journey that I've been sharing with you, and reached out to me and said, "What do you think about breath work and ketamine together?" And like that, like really snowballed it. And we brought in the ideas of intention and ceremonial work, and like he had this like really strong point of view about the way that he wanted to bring it to people, and it was super aligned. And so I think there's a lot of paths, and ketamine happens to be one that's widely available in the U.S. It's super safe. I was just like on like sharing a research article earlier today where it's just like it's like fractions of a percent of people that have any type of severe reaction. The side effects tend to be fairly mild as well. It's available in it's delivered in multiple different ways. It's just it's accessible, and it appears that there's like the medical piece, then there's kind of like our like spiritual and the stuff that we don't fully understand, and our body's own ability to heal and all that. And like ketamine is this like really interesting in between where it's like you can see the science of the neuroplasticity and like that your brain literally changes and stuff. But then there's also this piece where like a lot of people have a deep spiritual experience during it, or have contact with a past loved one, or things that can't be explained. And then there's super high correlations between having those experiences and having mental health benefits afterwards. And like that stuff is kind of exactly what you see with the psychedelics. So it's like, I don't yet know why all of this, I don't think we know why all of these things fit together, but it seems to, provide a lot of the same access points.
A lot of ketamine practices are super clinical right now, kind of sterile. So walk me through how you're changing up the system and what benefits and impact are people going to get when wanting to come to your clinic.
Yeah. So it's going to start before, well before someone actually, sets foot in our location. Um, After one, if you look at our Instagram website, like you're going to see very quickly, like these people are interested in breath work and in meditation and intention setting. And so you'll know that it's more than just the ketamine services or ketamine therapy. But once a patient has had a telehealth appointment with Dr. Gatmeyer or one of our staff, and they're a good candidate for the work, and they're going to move into it, then the holistic side kicks in. So they're introduced to the healing pathway. It's a mixture of written guidance and videos and community calls that we have during the week. And they're taught how to have a daily practice, how to test out different types of mindfulness practices, how to start working on breathing practices that are useful for the sessions. They're given guidebooks on things to prepare to start talking to their therapist about. So the holistic comes in from like the moment you're like hooked up with us, and then when you actually arrive for a first session, it's kind of what I shared. It's like you're being greeted at the door. You can have a more individual journey. There's people that are going to like go into a private room, and based on what the doctor has recommended, like that's how they'll receive their ketamine. But there's other folks that will receive it more in a community setting. Anyone who's there before they actually go in and get to their therapy has an opportunity to sit down with our holistic coach. We have crystal bowls. It's a very like vibey community, like support forward environment. And then coming out of it, when you're done, we have like a full hour plus like built in for anyone that needs it. Tea comes out, fruit comes out. You just chill and have time to interact, and to if there's anything you talk about, work through, you can. But it's really important that there isn't like you referenced the clinical feel earlier. Like we want people to know what they're getting before they come in, while they're there, feel like they're part of this just like really tightly held container, and like they're gonna leave in a very supportive way, also knowing like what do I do when I wake up tomorrow.
Very nice. What makes you, choose what was it about working with the team that you've built to run this operation? What kind of checklists were you having to make sure you partner with the right people?
Yeah, to be most honest, like beyond like are they capable and do I trust them? I just want to work with people I like, and that's what we did here. I've worked with really great people. I've worked with like the worst humans I've had, like in my corporate days, and so like in post corporate life, and it's like what matters to me more than anything is who I'm partnering with, and like that's just table stakes. So I know Victor for like a long time, so I didn't have to like wonder about character and stuff. And as each of us like shared our why for this, we all had at least one affinity group that we really wanted to bring, low cost or free therapy to. All of us had a lot of frankly similar feels and just like ways where this society is a bit off the rails, and wanting to kind of come back to center. And yeah, it was really just like, wait, we like each other, we have similar values. And there was, yeah, if I think back to things I like teams I oversaw and hired and stuff in my corporate days, a lot more like thought and energy and interview cycles and stuff went into making like the decision of who do we bring in. I think this was a case where like we trusted each other, we knew we wanted to do it, and we just went for it.
Well put. Set and setting is something you hear a lot of, but could you define that in your own words for people who aren't familiar?
Yeah. So this is all the things like outside of the medicine itself. So if you think of like set being like your mindset, and then setting being like where you're sitting, where something physically happens. um your mindset coming into it is the things I was sharing earlier about, like, knowing why you're there, having intention around your work. um if you've like dug into like kind of what's really going on inside of you, it's like context. It's like being aware of yourself. It's self-awareness. It's also like trying to be in a place of like positivity, or like openness and willingness to go and do hard work. Like part of your set coming in is knowing, like, if I face something I don't like, I'm not going to turn away from it. I'm going to like sit with it. It's all the things we can do for mindset work. And yeah, setting's the vibe. Setting is how your body feels in the space. It's like as you're laying there or sitting there or whatever, is it enjoyable to be in that place? It's the sounds, the head. Yeah, it's truly, it's everything that isn't the administration of the medicine. And as you said, it's probably the most important secret sauce of the ketamine therapy.
What is the role that community has played in your journey and evolution? How important is community for the psychedelic industry?
Mm. I mean, they could not be more important. Community is super lacking in modern society in many scenarios, and like you can look at like the elderly, you can look at like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and it's like there's warning signs everywhere of like us not getting the type of community and connect that we've had in the past. Um, I've in the psychedelic community, I've never known a non-communal aspect to it. It's just kind of, it's like if you're doing this work, you do it with people, you talk to people about it. It seems to just be understood that it's done with people. I've never actually thought about this before. Like they're like psychedelic and community is just so inbuilt. Um, when we approach the clinical work, though, I think very often it gets flipped on its head, and I think that's been a lot of the issue with the early days of ketamine therapy, is that it didn't have a community element. And like it's like not only was set and setting not what considered, but like a lot of folks were like kind of getting their treatments and then just like going about their life, and didn't maybe have the vocabulary and the knowledge and all the things to like talk to their friends and loved ones about it, talk to their therapists about it. And then like as we're proposing, like actually like going through it with people, having an opportunity to walk with them week to week and month to month, day to day. But I mean, we're social creatures. I think it just we're designed to work this way, and we're designed to heal this way. We're designed to like it's like if you've ever looked into Sapiens, right? It's like humans like worked and existed in like kind of small bands from the start, and like that's how we get back to our core. We're really good at at 1 to 200 people, and then we get complicated beyond that.
Well, Brad, when will the clinic in New York be opening? What is your intention behind the evolution of that business, and where can people follow yourself? Book your services and follow the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, thank you. So we're taking patients now. You can find us. I don't know if this all goes in the show notes, but tksessions.com is our website. There's a form you can submit there. And you can also find us on Instagram at tksessions.com. We've been having fun getting moving on the socials. We're on LinkedIn now. I think we're just therapeutic sessions on there. Same with TikTok. And then my personal Instagram, which gets a good bit of this stuff as well, is Breath Mackey, Breath Breath, and then Mackey Mackey. But yeah, we're in Williamsburg. We're really enjoying starting to talk to folks in the community and getting people slotted into our first sessions. And yeah, we're very open to talk to people that are interested in this therapy. We're also really interested to network with others in the healing space in New York, CAP therapists. A lot of the conversations I'm having these days are with other people who support people, figuring out how we can do things together. So if you're interested in any piece of what we have going in New York, I'd love to connect.
Wonderful, Brett. Thank you for getting vulnerable here with me today.